Good morning, everybody. I think we are on air. I think we are on air. Good morning, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming back to our session and webinar through the Partnership on Digitalization of Teaching and Learning embedded into Network for Excellence on teachers' digital competencies. So welcome, everybody. We try to accommodate these schedules to also the need of the teachers, because today is the crucial discussion is on the teacher issue. Let me first just remind what happened yesterday a bit, because our friends, partners from Ukraine, who are also working with us in Network for Excellence, had been brutally aggressed and once again covered by terror from these assassins and dictators. But we know in Europe, in our European democracies, that time is always against the dictators. So let me send warm regard also to the Ministry of Education and Science. The building yesterday was hit in the headquarters of Peremoji Street, but unfortunately our colleagues are safe, not psychologically, but we send to them all our warm greetings and regards, and we will win. We are sure of that. So having said that, welcome again. Our registration was very high. We have online now 67 participants. And indeed, in ENE, we continue our activities. As you know, our international network with more than 250 centers is still welcoming new centers in the family to share practice in different thematic approaches that we manage through, let's say, online solutions. We are praying almost for having with you more on-site exchanges, but for the time being, we are still online, and we thank you for that, for your effort and dedication to follow us. Just to give you an update on what we are doing in the partnership of entrepreneurial COVES and the partnership that we have also in autonomy and PPPs, we are now conducting coaching sessions with some of the centers of vocational excellence that are working around these partnerships. In the initiative of social inclusion, we have a peer learning activity that will be, let's say, conducted in the framework of a big conference that will be held next month, 15-16 November in San Sebastian in Spain, with our partners from the Basque government and our partners from the European Commission, our colleagues from the initiative and Center of Vocational Excellence participating in social inclusion partnership will be there, exchanging practice and knowledge. In the partnership we have in the greening responses through thematic actions, more known as Greta, we have this month, the 27th, we have our next webinar also, on which we will discuss on training programs, on the evolution of training programs through the green transition. Indeed, in all these partnerships, and I wanted to remind also the role of our self-assessment tool, we launched it in July, the second wave. I kindly remind Centers of Vocational Excellence that are joining today this session on filling up the questionnaires, the self-assessment, because you know it's a very important exercise that we put in your hands, but also to dedicate, let's say, a bit time to use a tool that overall try to contribute on quality assurance issues in your institutions. So I was saying also that in all this partnership, the topic of today in this webinar, teachers' digital competencies, is emerging in all of the partnerships as a crucial issue. So what we are trying to do is bring in practices and evidence for supporting this crucial role of teachers' digital competence to build excellence ecosystem. This is our main goal, and we hope through these sessions we will learn on how to improve, let's say, the teachers' need on improving capacities because digitalization is bringing indeed a changing role for teachers. It's changing role in terms, for example, of interactions with other professional occupational profiles in the schools and outside, also to interact and support and guide the students on building and interpreting information that, for example, very quick and fast changes are showing us that some years ago everything was in our hands. Now everything is in our minds. And we not only have to push a button, but also we have to interpret the information to do it. So the twin transition is bringing a lot of changes and challenges for our friends and colleagues, teachers. And the teachers also need to expand their broad expertise overall, linked to the role of a student as center approach to a student, which is something that holistically vocational excellence is relying on. So the educational environments and the students are also a very important part of this picture. I think the COVES role also, we want to bring these experiences and sharing with you, also taking into account the COVES role, the Centers of Vocational Excellence role, which indeed should stimulate effective formation of skill ecosystems, cooperating with a big array of actors and partners, industry, regional authorities, innovation and research center, etc. They should contribute also, they might contribute on the feedback loops on education and business cooperation. I think in this respect also there is an issue of, you know, the critical role in many times of the micro credentials or micro episodes of training that also, you know, are based on are very much important also on this pathway to get the digital competencies. And also, you know, the COVES role also is very important to develop this approach on a student-centered through teaching and learning approaches that also teachers should be supporting, but also the Center of Vocational Excellence are seen as critical, having a critical role for promoting the mobility of the teachers and students. They are recipients that even through the initiative of Erasmus Plus are bringing all this added value. This first webinar, and I promise you it will not be the last one. We will have more sessions. In our agenda, I wanted to introduce today our great partners and great colleagues, friends that are going to present. Anastasia Konomou and Georgios Kapsalis Signomi from GRC are going to present you, to share with you what is the DIGI framework from the European Commission, what are usabilities and applicabilities, and the issue of critical digital literacies for teachers and educators. After we will have also the case of Estonia on the digital competence advancement. Sorry. Then we move to a break, and also we will later on, after our digital coffee, we will have 3 other presentations addressing how to foster the adoption of the whole school level digital innovation in Estonia. We will have a case study from Georgia on collaboration between 2 schools, which is key also for achieving excellence and networking together. And then we will review and we will provide a summary. My colleague Filippo Del Nino, my great colleague Filippo Del Nino will introduce you this session, and also now will introduce you also what is going on in this initiative with the developmental project, which are key parts of the development of this thematic sub-initiative of partnership that we are driving, working together with you. Filippo, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manuel. I will keep the presentation for the last. So if we have limited time, I will try to make it short, and I would really like to have our speakers more time as possible. And even more, I would like to have questions and answer session as long as possible. We have a big number of participants. You'll have the opportunity to intervene, to put questions in the chat. So I'll see how much time I can spend at the end on this session. So without hesitation, I would like to pass the word to our JRC colleagues and friends. Anastasia, I think it's up to you.
Thank you very much, Filippo. Thank you very much, Manuel. Together with my colleague, Georgios Kapsalis, we're going to present what we are doing at the Commission level regarding building educators' digital competence. So we start first with the DIGI ENE framework, and then we will also continue with the Safer for Teachers tool. So Georgios, please go ahead.
Anastasia, would you please share your screen? Dear colleagues, thank you for the invitation. Thank you for having all of us here today. And hopefully something good will come out from the presentations and the participation, and of course, the reactions and the comments we're going to have. Let me first start about this competitive framework. This is the basis of the tools we have been developing in JRC in the last almost 5 years now. Someone would say that we know enough about theories, etc. However, this framework is the basis of the tool Anastasia is going to present in a while. So what I'm trying to say is that our tool has a solid theoretical background. So it's not a tool that came just out of the blue. So what we've been doing with in JRC, we're basically dealing with challenges, and as you all know, the last couple of years we've been dealing with COVID, and one of the challenges it was how to reopen schools and how to ensure that all teachers have adequate training in order to support kids to be ready and staff, of course, to be ready for the schools. Next, please, Anastasia. And one more. So we have some more challenges to deal with. Our educators, our teachers digitally competent to address these new challenges, or they just turn their chalk and talk lectures into PPT presentations and just present them in a screen? Do they apply pedagogy, or in case of upper secondary or continuous education settings, whether they apply adult learning principles? And more especially, do they reflect about their digital competence? So these are some major challenges we've been dealing. So one of the questions, one of the answers to all these challenges comes from almost 5 years ago, and this is the DIGI ENE framework. This framework, as you can see, published in the November 2017, and it's a common reference of what it means for an educator to be digitally competent. So in the sense of educator, we perceive all those involved in education, from pre-primary, primary, lower secondary, upper secondary education, and higher education, and support educators to reflect and further develop their digital competence. Here I need to stress reflect. The framework refers to reflection, self-reflection, and most especially critical reflection. And of course, it doesn't refer to evaluation and assessment. It covers, as I said, all education levels. It is available in up until now in 10 European languages. And here I open a small parenthesis. Whoever is willing to collaborate with us and create some more translations, we are willing and we are open to collaborate. And up until now, we have over 34,000 unique downloads worldwide, which means that it's a framework that is that has an impact not only in Europe but around the world. So the central figure of the framework, some of you might know it, is this, as we call it, Caramello. The Caramello, as you can see, is divided into 6 areas, into 6 sections. The first one is professional engagement, and refers mainly to educators' professional competences. And the 6th one refers to learners' competences, and more especially facilitating learners' digital competence. However, the core, the center of the model offered by DIGI ENE refers to educator pedagogic competences. And I think this is actually the point of today's meeting about teachers' digital competences. So teacher, I think, is one way or another bound with pedagogy. So related to pedagogy, we have digital resources, teaching and learning, empowering learners, and assessment. However, this is the beginning of the whole story about DIGI ENE. Later on, you'll see that within the framework, we have a progression model, which means that a teacher starts as a novice, starts from the beginning, from step 1. In our case, is A1. This is the first level. This is an entry level, and a teacher can finish it up to the point of C2. As you can see, there is a progression from A1 to C2, and someone of you may be familiar. What I wish to stress here, that this progression model of the 6th proficiency level has been inspired by the European framework for language learning. So there is a kind of collaboration between these 2 progression models. So relate. Excuse me. Now, related to the progression model and the proficiency levels, you can see that the next one, please, Anastasia. That as you can see in the bottom part of your screen, there are the 6 areas. Area 1, professional engagement. Area 2, digital resources, etc., up to 6. This is the progression model. And vertically, you can see that each one of these areas has the progression model from A1 to C2. within this progression model, there are some action verbs that support teachers to move from one level to the other. And so what does this progression model has to offer? Next one, please. The progression levels are cumulative, which means that each higher level descriptor comprises all lower level descriptors. And they are, as I told you, they are inspired by the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. So this is, in a nutshell, some brief information about DIGI compared to framework. So the framework, what does it offer to education? What does this framework offers to educators and teachers and politicians and policy makers in general? Actually, it's a background document for policy and practice. Policy for those who are formulate the education policy, and practice, we'll see in a while, as soon as Anastasia comments here a presentation, how this framework has been transformed into a useful tool in the hands of teachers. It is the basis for development of tools, which means that someone can take the framework and develop another tool. However, we suggest to try first something for teachers. And it's a common language and logic that can contribute to a dialogue for exchange of good practices throughout the world and throughout teachers. And finally, it's a reference point for the teachers to document their current and future approaches. Having said that, I don't want to take much longer from those willing to hear about how the framework has been transformed into practice. So I'll pass the floor to Anastasia to continue with Selfie for Teachers. So how the framework has been transformed into a practical tool in the hands of teachers. So Anastasia, first.
Thank you, Yorgos. So, as Yorgos mentioned, the digital competence framework for educators, it's a conceptual framework. So it's a tool to the hands of policymakers, researchers, training program developers, in order to use it and develop maybe resources, maybe a training program, professional development programs, evaluation tools, external evaluation or internal evaluations. But as you have heard, we really believe at the engagement of teachers and educators in general into a self-reflection process in order to support and build their digital competence. So following this self-reflection process, which we consider as a continuous learning process for the educators, we developed tools in order to facilitate this self-reflection for all educators. Actually, you will see that in the Education Action Plan 2021-2027, the European Commission considers digital competence as a core skill for all educators and training staff, and considers it as very important to be embedded in all areas of teacher professional development. That is why an action specifically for developing an online tool for teachers based on the DIGCOM Edu framework was included in strategic priority 1 of this digital action plan. So taking this need, as Yorgos described before, not only because digital competence for educators is really important as the educators' profile, but also because of current trends that we're facing, especially with the COVID pandemic lockdowns. It was really important that we do provide something for the teachers and also policymakers to support building teachers' professional digital competence. Based on the DIGCOM Edu framework, we firstly developed a testing tool in 2018 to see how educators perceive the framework and whether the conceptualization of digital competence does reflect to what educators consider also important for their digital competence. And you will see here that this testing tool that we named it Check-in was really in great demand, especially during the years of the pandemic. So you see an increased use of this testing tool. So we considered that it was important that we follow up with a self-reflection tool that is valid and reliable. So we did, first of all, a check-in version for higher education, which is has been piloted in collaboration with CRUE in Spain, which is the a consortium of the Spanish universities. And now this check-in for higher education self-reflection tool is available in both Spanish and English. And we can share the link at the chat at the point of time. And at the same time, we developed the survey for teachers, which is for primary and secondary teachers, in order to support this group of educators towards, again, their digital competence. So what does it mean that we use the DIGI framework to develop a self-reflection tool, and specifically survey for teachers? It means that we took the theoretical aspect of the tool, given all the 6 areas and the 22 competences, and we transformed them into more specific self-reflection items, giving examples that are relevant and more close to the teacher's practices in order to facilitate this reflection. So Survey for Teachers is a tool, which means that it has a content which refers to the 6 areas of the DIGI framework and self-reflection items, but it's also a process, which is the self-reflection process, where we believe that during this process, teachers are actively engaged into their own professional learning and with better impact on their digital competence development. So using the survey for teachers, teachers reflect on digital competence in 6 different areas. They receive feedback on their results with suggestions how to level up. And based on these results, they can plan their professional development pathways. Of course, the tool also tries to empower teachers to collaborate by using or sharing anonymized data in order to support group planning and training activities through collaboration. So let me refer a little bit to the design process of the tool. It's important to say that at JRC, we try to follow a co-creation approach. So the design and development of the tool has been in collaboration with education experts across Europe. And also we had 2 rounds of testing. We piloted the tool in December 2020, and based on the first results, we did a second main pilot in April 2021. So we had more than 4,000 teachers testing the tool in 5 countries. And through this testing, we followed psychometrics statistics in order to confirm the validity and reliability of the tool. And indeed, the confirmatory factor analysis proved that we are in a good reliability and validity stage for the tool. We also follow up with another study in order to understand how the users perceive the tool. So in addition to the internal validity of the tool, we wanted to also see the external validity of the tool. So we had focus groups where we talk with teachers to understand how they perceive the group, the tool, but also with more qualitative analysis, we analyzed the key factors that the teachers saw in the use of the tool and how to even improve it. And we followed up with usability tests as well to make the user interface more easy to use. And finally, on the 5th of October 2021, the World Teachers Day, we launched the tool in 5 languages. So last week, actually, we celebrated our first birthday. And in January 2022, the tool is available online, open for all teachers across Europe and beyond in 28 languages. As of today, you will see that we have an increased number of teachers, even though we're still on development, because even though the tool is available in the 28 languages, we're still building some features that we designed from the beginning and we consider important, but also because we're using the users' feedback in order to even further develop the tool. Here you will see that we have also about 63,000 users. Actually, yesterday we had 61, and so you see the increase is on daily basis. And you also see that we have 1,800 groups. What does that mean? That the tool allows a teacher to start a self-reflection at any point of time on his or her own, like a bottom-up approach, not waiting for an administrative process in order to participate into a professional learning path, but also a teacher can create a group and invite other teachers to take their individual self-reflections within this group and share anonymized data in order to plan as a group. So you will see also that teachers perceive the tool very nicely. They consider it that it does reflect their teaching practices, and it does help them to identify their strengths, their gaps, in order to plan further their training on their digital competence. And also teacher educators see that this is a tool very important to support teachers in order to build further their digital competence. During the design process, we, of course, revisited the DIGI Committee framework. We revisited the check-in tool, but also we revisited recent literature in order to understand the current needs and trends. So we have an up-to-date tool. The DIGI Committee framework was published in 2017, and since then we had a lot of happening, especially with impact in education. So during this process, we kept the 6 areas of the DIGI Committee framework, but we have 32 items to reflect the competences under each area. For example, you will see here that we have an item bringing forward the need to understand better what computational thinking is, or what emerging technologies are, and ethical considerations regarding, for example, AI or data management, blended learning. So you will see that some competences, because they were complex enough, we have 2 items to capture all the elements of this competence, or some competences were brought forward as an item in order to make them more evident for the self-reflection of the teachers. And as you also mentioned, we have a progression model based on the DIGI Committee framework. So we kept this 6-level progression model, the 6 proficiency levels, starting from a newcomer, going up to the pioneer. And it's important to mention that we try to approach this also from a more specific to a more strategic approach, but also from more individual to more collective. So in order to facilitate the teachers reflecting towards that direction, we were using the action verbs. So starting from, am I aware? I have tried, I use. Then to more critical, I analyze, I reflect, I redesign, and then support others, involve students, or I initiate, contribute to the school and our community. How does the tool work? Actually, it's quite easy. Any teacher can create an EU login account, which is the single sign-on service that the European Commission provides. Start a self-reflection, just visit the link and start a self-reflection and go through the 32 items in the 6 areas. The tool to complete takes around 30 minutes in order to really study the items, understand the items, and reflect. But any teacher can save, for example, one area and then go back the next day and continue and so on. So it can be broken into different sessions. It's important to say here that this process is, as we mentioned, a learning process as well. So by reading all the statements or the items, the teacher can understand not only where he or she stands, but also where he or she can reach. So at the same time, we introduce terms and concepts that are important for digital competence, and especially using digital technologies in learning. So we have a glossary facilitating this understanding on behalf of the teachers. When the teacher completes the self-reflection, receives a feedback report with the results, and of course, as I said, suggestions how to level up. And finally, a teacher can download a digital badge and certificate for acknowledging the participation into this process. When we developed the tool, as we said, the items, the self-reflection items, the content is based on the DIGI framework. However, the platform where we host the tool and the self-reflection process took into consideration design took into consideration needs of adult learning, and especially to see teachers as professionals on their own learning paths. So as such, it provides flexibility. That's why we have the account in order to, for a teacher to have, the teachers to have their own dashboard, my home page, where they can manage their self-reflections and of course, their results. They can also decide the order, which area they would like to respond to, not necessarily all areas or in the sequence that is presented in the framework. So this flexibility allows the teacher to use the tool at a convenient time, but also based on needs. It also provides the opportunity to the teacher to start individually a self-reflection. So by clicking on the button, start a new self-reflection, but individually initiated, they can go through the whole process and receive their feedback report. Of course, it's very important to stress once again that the feedback report is personalized to the teacher, is not shared with anybody else. Only the teacher can see it, and only the teacher can decide if they want to share it. But also a group can be created on the tool. So a teacher, let's say a teacher in a school, decides that with a group of colleagues, they would like to use the tool, do their self-reflections, and then share their anonymized results based on which they can plan together their training activities. Or imagine at the training institution, a teacher trainer creates a group for the teacher students in order to together to decide on their needs and plan their training program. Or even at the national level or regional level, they can invite the teachers to use Selfie for Teachers, and with the aggregated data collected, to identify the needs for professional development programs. So it is important to understand the bottom-up approach, where we would like to empower the agency of the teachers for their own professional learning in order to be actively engaged as well, but also the top-down approach where the institution, the system, at system level, for example, we can provide the support to the teachers in order to help them use the tool effectively. So we need to provide a supportive context in order for the teacher to have the time, for example, to use the tool, or the time to collaborate with other teachers, or resources that are available to use for their training paths. So at both levels, the tool aims to support this building of teachers' digital competence. Another key feature that we consider important for adult learning is to receive immediate and personalized feedback. So when a teacher completes an area, can get a feedback report, and also when completes the whole, all the 6 areas, a feedback report, which he can or she can also download. The results are presented in a visual approach, so they can see, the teachers can see their overall competence. So as I said, each teacher can see only his or her own report. Nobody else can see these results. They can see results by each one of the 6 areas, or they can see results by each item of the area. And finally, they can download also a hard copy of their report if they want to share it with a coach or a peer in order to do together some training activities. Apart from this quantitative presentation of results, we also have a more qualitative presentation of each one of the items, presenting where the teacher is at a specific competence, but also with suggestions how to improve and go to the next level. I think one of the strongest features is also monitoring progress. So I mentioned that the teacher has a dashboard. So from my homepage, the teachers can view all the self-reflections that they have taken through time. They can compare through time, but they can also see with averages of the group that they decided to participate in, or with all users of the tool, where they stand. So through this increase in time, but also in relevance to other users, they can position themselves and act accordingly. And finally, as we said, they can download their certificates in order to build their e-portfolio or their to require for if they are required to show some evidence of learning, professional learning activities that they participate in. It is important. It is important, I'm closing, it is important to go back to mention again that for teachers is not an evaluation tool, is not an external certification tool. It's a tool to support the self-reflection process in order to build further the digital competence. So the teachers, through this continuous professional learning cycle, they can take a self-reflection, receive the feedback report, plan based on their results and the suggestions, their professional learning paths, work with other colleagues if they would like to, apply these new competences that they developed in their professional practice, and then take their self-reflection again in order to see the progress. We have a lot of material that is available in 28 languages. As Yorgos mentioned, we are in the process of extending the tool, actually with ETF, we're in close collaboration, and we are planning in the next year to support maybe the deployment of the tool in the Western Balkans. We already have some countries, for example, Israel or Jordan, that they are using some of our tools, but it's important to say that we are open to that. And we're also, right now, we're in the process of adapting the tool for early childhood education and care, because those educators, they have specific needs. specific backgrounds, specific target audience. Their learners are different, and of course, specific settings for learning. And finally, closing is that now we're in the process where we have an expert network where together with them, we implement different use cases of the tool in order to collect and identify key factors that enable the efficient use of the tool. So thank you very much. And both me and Yorgos, we are open for any questions or clarifications. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anastasia. I invite you as well, the participants, to put any questions they might have in the chat. I would like to draw attention that we already have an exchange. I'm going to read it because I think it's important one. Manuel, our colleague, asked about examples of evidence on how self is used for planning development for teachers. And Yorgos already replied that they are collecting, and they will be collected soon, a number of cases where this tool was used, and a report will be published indicating all possible scenarios. So as you've seen, this is not a single tool developed in one specific moment. It's a process continuing. And if you're interested, you can continue to look at the website of JRC, and you will find new material coming out. Could be guidelines, could be examples. So I strongly invite, if you're interested in this topic, to follow up all the developments JRC is carrying out throughout the years. From my side, I think Yorgos has already mentioned something which I would like to repeat. I mean, Selfie for Teachers and DIGI Edu are tools which are targeting all teachers in a country. So we cannot pretend that they actually all speak English or other European languages. So the efforts to translate these tools in other languages is really crucial. So if you're participating in projects from your own country where translations are made, I mean, it's important that you share that these can be shared with all countries who have the same language. So this is something that would really bring added value to other countries. So please keep this in mind if you're involved in a national or international project. As Anastasia said, a teacher toolkit will be soon be published as well. From my side, I would like, first of all, to thank our contributors in JRC. They never like to show off, but let me say that JRC is really top-notch in all developments in relation to digital competences, key competences. I mean, they have a number of, today we focus on digital competence, but I invite participants to look at all the products that JRC is working on in relation to teachers' competences in different frameworks on entrepreneurship, key competences, because there are top international standards that they use from not only EU countries, but as a reference internationally. If you have any other questions, otherwise we will save a few minutes for the next session. Okay, just to inform you that you can still follow up with us at the end of the webinar. So you have all our contact details. If you have more information or questions or requests for documents, please feel free to contact us, and we will contact JRC in case the questions are for them. So I think we can move on with the agenda. So, sorry. I will invite Darren Mundy from University of Hull to take the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen. Okay, thank you very much for allowing me to present today. It's a pleasure delivering today and informing you about the work that we've been doing across Europe in relation to the DETECT project, which was an Erasmus Plus co-funded program of the EU. So I'm part of the University of Hull project team, and we've got a range of other contributors, and my thanks are on the slide to individuals who have contributed to the slide production. So if I just move on. So DITECT project team essentially has consisted of 9 project partners from across Europe, from the UK, from Italy, from Finland, and from Catalonia in Spain. And essentially the project has focused on examining critical digital literacies, producing a framework and producing some practical tools to aid individuals in understanding how to engage in delivering material to students at primary, secondary, different levels of the educational system. So in terms of the presentation today, what I aim to do is describe why we focused on creating a new framework for critical digital literacies related to teacher education. I will present the framework that we have produced to you, and then I will present some of the resources that we constructed to support the use of the framework in practice. So those tools that I'll specifically present today are our self-organized learning environment for teachers and our online toolkit. So before I get started, just a link back into the selfie tool. Just from our context, we did use the selfie tool as a mechanism to look at digital competence amongst the teachers and the schools within our project team as a mechanism just to understand where things were at the beginning of the process. It also enabled us to look at the difference between, I guess, leadership understanding of where digital literacies were in the context of the schools and the understanding of the educators. So it was a really positive thing for us to do. So the DITECT project itself was essentially a project that was funded to explore critical digital literacies. Let me just move that at school level, and to advance understandings of the changing nature of critical digital literacies in practice across different levels of the school system, and then also to provide primary and secondary school teachers with a range of practical school tools to support their practice. I think it's really important to understand that from a project perspective, there's a clear difference or a key difference for us in relation to, I guess, those entry level or those levels of digital competence and digital literacy where essentially individuals are understanding how to use tools or how to initiate the use of digital competence in a range of different scenarios, and a movement beyond that in terms of that critical thinking about how you can best use tools in practice, where tools across different literacy areas are most useful to support either business operation or learning and those kinds of things, or really thinking about how we can move beyond the current tools that are in place and developing new tools or new ways of thinking in relation to digital practice. So, in essence, for us, a definition of critical digital literacies can be, as is shown on the slide, which is an engagement in contemporary digital practices requires a complex amalgam of linguistic, technological, contextual, and critical skills, knowledge and understanding. So it goes beyond basic technology use. It looks at exploring the ways in which we think in relation to the digital and the application of the digital in relation to the practices of a range of different learners. So we explored at the beginning of the project a range of different frameworks that currently exist that focus on the use of critical digital literacies in school-based contexts. So what we discovered through that initial analysis was that the existing school-related frameworks about digital technology, digital literacy, and the range of other terminologies you can place within that space focus primarily on teachers' pedagogical practices with digital technologies, but they're compromises and were selected to prioritize the topics which were regarded as the most important ones at the time. But there's question marks over whether or not all of those topics are important, or whether there are also some other new important issues that exist within the digital literacy space. We also found that some of the frameworks do not focus only on digital technology, but more on other general competences. And we found that some of those frameworks were in urgent need of update. So especially if those frameworks were published before 2010. So we spent a period of time exploring the existing state of the art in relation to frameworks that focused on critical digital literacies. In terms of our own framework, so we determined from that process that there was a need for the development of a new framework within the critical digital literacy space. In terms of the methodology that we used, we focused on a systematic literature review in the area of critical digital literacies. Within that literature review, we focused on delivering a school-based article search between the years of 2005 to 2020 across 2 electronic databases, so EBSCO and the Web of Science. Plus, we also included a range of policy-related documents within our own exploration of what the existing state of the art was. Through that systematic literature review process, we found 143 articles which related directly to this area, and 13 policy-related documents which we accepted for the analysis. Terms found were structured in dimensions within our framework and sub-dimensions, and based on these, a preliminary framework was created and then went through a range of different revisions through engagement with our teachers and through engagement with the range of researchers involved in the process. The review results formed the basis of the framework, but this was discussed and reflected through meetings between the teachers and researchers, as well as a range of in-depth teacher interviews from within our project team. And the final framework that we came to is a result of that research review and the practical findings within the context of those interviews and practical examinations. So the framework itself that we constructed, we found a range of different terms which were quite interesting. Within that literature review process, we found that there was a heavy emphasis within the literature on negative implications of technology and the negative implications for digital literacy. So topics such as cyberbullying, sexual harassment, or e-safety were those problematic dimensions. And we found limited content within the literature at that time around the positive dimensions of digital competence or digital literacy as well. So that was a really positive finding from our literature review. The literature review, the framework that we created as a result of that, is presented on the screen here. So we had 8 dimensions or 8 core dimensions coming out of that process, and those were further split down into a range of sub-dimensions. So across those dimensions, we structured those into the 8 areas that you see here. So we've got technology use, data literacies, information literacies, digital content creation, digital teaching and learning, digital citizenship, digital well-being and safety, digital communication and collaboration. And many of these areas, I'm sure you will see in the context of school-based learning, there are question marks about how we go about developing not just learners' understanding of what these terms mean and the basic, I guess, underlying tools to enable some of these items to be explored, but also the kind of critical levels of learner engagement with understanding how best to use or how we can utilize many of these different terms to positively move forward within the digital space. I mean, in terms of some of these dimensions and sub-dimensions as well, it's just worth picking out a couple from within this context. So picking up on the kind of positivity around digital technology use, you've got to focus on digital well-being and safety, which, yes, will focus on e-safety within that context, but making sure that students stay protected across multiple different layers of education, but also also developing the digital self. So developing the notion of who individuals are within the digital sphere. And that's quite a critical level of engagement for learners to gain that level of understanding with. In addition, from a data literacy perspective, the focus, yes, on understanding how we can use data and present data and facilitate that the recognition of how data can help us to make decisions within different spaces, but also dealing with the kind of critical understanding of what data is, whether data is closed or whether data is opened, how data should be used, and those kinds of more critical levels of engagement. I think it's really important across the spectrum of learning as well to understand that learners at primary school level will engage in much different ways with a framework such as this, as we did with some of our partners, than learners at more advanced levels as we move into secondary. And it's about developing that process or learner journey from those beginning stages through to leaving secondary or leaving the further areas of education. So on the basis of the critical digital literacy framework that we constructed, we focused on developing two sets of practical tools for teachers to develop an understanding of how to utilize the framework within practice. So one of those practical tools that we created was a self-organized learning environment for teachers. So a learning environment which we aimed to ensure delivered teachers with an understanding of how they could translate elements of that framework through into their practical context, through practical case studies of the use of the framework within practice, and the ability for learners within the tool to share their own understanding or their own examples of how the tool has been used within the context of their own establishments across Europe. So essentially that self-organized learning environment for teachers is structured at the moment as follows. We have 5 modules which are present there. 3 of those modules focus on general modules for teachers to learn more about the framework and the use of the framework in transversal contexts. So the initial module we have in place is just the understanding of critical digital literacies, understanding the framework, understanding the dimensions and subdimensions within there, and understanding how those subdimensions can relate through to teacher education and practice. We have 2 modules which we see as transversal modules, which focus on instruments for the integration of critical digital literacies as part of school-based policy, and understanding the school as a context for continuous professional development connected into critical digital literacies. And then we have 2 specific modules which were facilitated primarily by our practice-based partners within the primary and secondary education contexts, with the first on critical digital literacies from research to education, educational practice, providing examples from within the primary school context of how the framework can be translated through to developing learner competence within that context. And then the second focusing on critical digital literacies from research to educational practice in a secondary school context. So Italian, Spanish and English based and Finnish based school partners were involved in developing content across both of those modules. We then also have a couple of additional workshops presented within the learning environment, with one of those workshops focusing primarily on data literacy from within the framework, and how data literacy has been used in one specific context to cultivate a smart data school, so engaging with exercises to develop critical levels of understanding about the use of data and the need for data in a range of different areas. And then the second workshop, we focused on assessment and evaluation, understanding that digital competence, especially in relation to the critical dimension, is quite a difficult element to engage with from an assessment and evaluation perspective. So there's a workshop focused on that within the context of the tool. So that was the first of the tools that we presented that individuals can register to use. It's open, individuals can access it for no fee and go through that learning journey and hopefully share their own examples of translating some of those ideas through into practice. So the second tool we focused on within the context of the project was the development of a toolkit which enabled the collecting together of existing and original resources designed to aid learners, designed to aid educators within primary school and secondary school contexts to develop levels of critical digital literacies within their students. So those materials provided within the toolkit includes presentations, videos, infographics, a range of other tools to be used for teaching critical digital literacies at schools, including case studies as well. This was an existing and a range of existing original resources for teachers' professional development about critical digital literacies as well, and the range of educational scenarios. So lesson plans on the themes of CDL that could be adapted to the needs of primary and secondary students. So that toolkit is available within the Detect project pages and enables individuals to choose specific languages, target specific levels of the educational system, and target specific dimensions and sub-dimensions of the critical digital literacy framework that we have put in place. Another mechanism within that toolkit enables individuals engaging with the tools to provide additional content within the context of that toolkit environment. So individuals can add their own tools and share their own materials within that toolkit environment. So really it provides a community resource for individuals to engage with a range of existing and original resources to support the development of critical digital literacies within schools-based practice. So that gives you a basic outline of the work that we've done within the Detect project, illustrating the framework, illustrating the practical tools we've put in place to facilitate an engagement with the dimensions within the Detect project. Our next steps really are to continue to embed the framework in use, building on the partnerships that we've already got in place and expanding on that, and explore some of the more complicated aspects further. So, for example, that notion of how we develop critical digital literacies from primary through to secondary, and that the continuation of educational practice in there, and also the assessment of the critical element of digital literacy within the context of primary, secondary school establishments. So with that, I just wish to thank you again for the opportunity to present the results of the framework here today. And I'm more than happy to take messages from individuals at a later point linked into the project. And a range of references are there on the slide as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank a lot Professor Mundi for the presentation. I will just to remind everybody who has some problems with the connectivity or who could not follow the whole webinar that we will share the registration, the recording of the webinar with all people who has registered so that you can access it also later. Unfortunately, the registration, the recording will all be in English. We will also share all the presentations so that you can go through them also later. We going to collect questions, and the first one is from Mr. Labadze. I wonder if there was an analysis of the student perspective in the literature you reviewed, or if the students were involved in the designing of the tool.
Yeah, so we engaged teachers in the designing of the tool, and we did engage with understanding the student perspective through the selfie tool, actually, of the digital competence of the students within each of the school-based contexts that we engage with. So I think within the literature review as well, the literature review will have picked up on papers, not just from a teacher perspective, but also from a student perspective. So it's engaging with understanding critical digital literacies from a multi-dimensional perspective.
Thank you very much. From my side, a very quick comment is obviously crystal clear that in all areas of pedagogy, the development is continuous, but in the area of digital pedagogy is 2 or 3 times faster. So as you've seen from the presentation of Professor Mandi, but also from the presentation of JSC, the need of working on the tools and on the resources that are developed is continuous. It's a big effort. It's inevitable. It was a good example, says the frameworks which have not been touched since 15 years inevitably are partially outdated. So JSC has demonstrated, like they are reviewing their model on a regular basis. And I think this example is also clear about it. It was very rich, so I understand if people need to go through a bit of the material presented to collect their ideas. As I said before, you can contact us. We will give you the direct email of myself and STEP's colleagues so that you can forward questions you have after this webinar. I'm going through, I had a couple of questions, but I think you addressed them. So is actually free access, so you don't request fee to access the documents. Thank you very much. That's something usually is typical of Erasmus projects. I think you can also contact Professor Mandi if you have any interest in cooperating in requesting additional information on how this model has been implemented. It's very rich. I have to say I started looking into it when I knew that you were coming, but I haven't a lot of materials to go through. So I would like really to thank you very much for your participation, to thank you and all the colleagues of the Erasmus project who developed this very, very interesting approach. And I'll pass through the next presenter is Ms. Carly Pozzogina. Apologies for the probably wrong pronunciation, from the Agency of the Minister of Education Research in Estonia. Ms. Pozzogina.
Roberto has hands up.
Sorry, Roberto, didn't see your hands up.
No, I just wanted, sorry, Carly, for interrupting you just before starting your presentation. I just wanted to comment upon Darren's contribution about this project. We were also involved. So as you may have seen, it's a real rich catalog of different tools and methods and frameworks that could be used by the participants. So once again, I would like to push participants to take a look at all these materials, because there was not only the framework, and you could have seen and measured the differences between this framework and the DigiComp Edu. So there are many similarities, things in common, but also some other parts could be more analyzed. But also there's an interesting toolkit of resources and scenarios, which is an open, let's say, database that could be used by everybody and could be also enriched by everybody, teachers, educators, and so on, who would like, on one hand, to dig and find suitable examples and instances of education in the digital area, but also to present their own practice, their own ideas. And of course, when it's populated, it's more nice, and it could be, of course, updated and usable for everybody. So it was just comment and invitation for everybody. So thank you, and sorry, Kelly, you can go on with your presentation.
Yes, thank you. My name is Kerli Posogina, and I work as a project manager under the Training Center in Education and Youth Board, and we are working directly with Education and the Ministry of Education and Research. So I'm sorry for looking for different directions. I have 3 screens, so I'm trying to remember that my my camera is down here. But it's very good opportunity for me to go into more detail on what we have done in Estonia with those digital competence frameworks. So it's very good introduction to our work, what the previous presenters talked about. And I have prepared some examples of how we have implemented those DIGOMP and DIGOMP-EDU modules in Estonia, and what kind of digital training we offer for the teachers, and also what kind of tools we have created for teachers to help them in their everyday work. Using the digital tools and advocating digital competence throughout the curricula. And also have prepared a lot of slides, so I'm not going to go into very detailed information, but just to have an idea what we offer, and then later on, if you have any questions further on, you can contact me and ask more about those examples. So the next slide. Okay, now it's working. So in Estonia, the basic thing is that already in 2014, we had digital competence put into the national curricula, where this is a general competence throughout all the subjects. So we have been working with this digital competence integration already 10 years almost, and the work does not end. This means that a lot of issues, the idea what is the digital competence is always changing, and that gives us new challenges all the time. So we also based our work through the Digital Education Action Plan. This is, we are always closely looking at what is important in Europe. And of course, we have based our digital competence models, those DIGOMP and DIGOMP-EDU frameworks. In Estonia, also there is a professional standards for teachers and vocational teachers. So the digital competence is referred there as well. So we are going to renew them soon again. So we are hoping that the new versions of digital competence models go into the new standards also. And of course, in Estonia, we have Estonian education strategy. And this strategy also, one of the key points is digital competence, digital learning, and digital tools. So this gives us a very good cornerstone to base our work and say this is important in Estonia. When in Estonia the digital competence was established in the national curricula, what happened was that a lot of teachers started to ask what do you actually mean about the digital competence, because in curricula there was actually 7 sentences about it. So they said what we need to teach in our subjects. So that is how we created the frameworks for the teachers and students to go into more detail. And we started to create different materials, tools, and gather experiences how digital competence is developed within the schools and also teachers, so we could share them. And that is why we also created this kind of digital platform to just tell the story throughout the country. We also established this kind of digital competence task force. There is different specialists from universities and from schools in service teachers, vocational teachers, who are working on specific tools. And we also have this kind of council where we report our work twice a year. So we have there all the important associations in Estonia, Headmasters Association, Teachers Association, Educational Technologists Network, and so on. So all these approximately 10 different associations are part of this council. So we could give them overview what has done on this field every year. And of course, ministry is also part of this council and very much supports our work in Education and Youth Board. So what we have done is that we created at first students' digital framework, which is DComp 2.1 actually. We are based our module. Now we're looking at the new version and what changes we should make for the students' framework. But I am not going to, it is not today's topic, but it is a big part of teachers' model. So that is why I put it here. And just to give for you the information that there is actually, we have created in Estonia based on that students' framework assessment criteria for key stages of general education. So actually teachers get a very specific learning outcomes they have to achieve on different levels of education. And for teachers, of course, we use DComp Edu, but what we have done here also in students model is that we have described this DComp Edu in Estonian and basing it on our own educational context. So we have adapted it and done a lot of work of describing the model in Estonian and based it on our experience. And of course, the framework is the same. So we are looking all the descriptions, and then we are doing the adaptation for Estonian language. But for teachers, what we offer and how we kind of trying to create this system right now that we have analyzed in our training center, we offer a lot of different digital training programs and courses for the teachers. And here is just to give an idea, we don't have to go into specific numbers, but we are not using the proficiency levels that is offered on the original framework. We have our own scale, which we have then piloted, and this works for us very well. And we are analyzing based on this scale. You can see on the left side is we take all the learning outcomes we have described in our training courses for the teachers, and we give a specific level for each learning outcomes, and we have connected into the specific digital competence framework area and the subtopic. So this gives us an idea what level of courses do we have, what kind of as you can see on the table, what kind of holes we have, what topics we do not cover. For example, empowering learners is quite sketchy. We can see that there is some new courses needed there. Also, right now, there is a big demand on these digital resources from schools. So this gives you an idea how we systematically connect our training courses with this framework and how we analyze what are the next steps, what do we need to offer. And of course, we also have self-assessment tools, different surveys. We also advocate selfie for teachers. It just happened that our self-assessment survey came out sooner. There was no tool, and we created the Estonian version, and then few years later, selfie for teachers came out. So now we are advocating both. And actually, what is happening is that in Estonia, the schools have different needs, and they are very autonomous what they use. So we give them the variety of tools, and they decide what they want to, what they like. In our own version of self-assessment, we are not using this kind of specific platform. That is why Selfie for Teachers is better. We provide different formats of self-assessment survey. For example, XML, Lime survey, Google Forms, different versions, and schools have access to it, and they can import this kind of format they need. So these kind of tools we support for the teachers. For digital training, we offer a lot of courses, as I said, and just to give an overview, so we have approximately over 16,000 teachers in general education. So 20% of general education teachers participate in our digital training courses. And this is actually a quite good percentage. And I have to say, Estonia is a very small country. So if you're thinking about the number of the teachers, so. But now a bit about different programs. So we have this kind of 31 hours program, digital integration. Here we focus, this is a blunt translation, so I was struggling to translate it. Maybe Kairit can offer a good term for it, but it's lõiming. There we focus on integration between subjects. So what is happening is that we put two school teams together, and we form subgroups where mathematics teachers and the Estonian and the language and literature teachers work together, so they can focus what they can offer to support digital competence in their subject. And examples of best practices are created, and which can be used for all, can be used by all teachers. We always thinking about how we can publish all the content that and artifacts that are created throughout the courses, so other teachers can learn from them. We have this kind of digital key course, which is also quite long program. Here we also, this is open courses, so everybody all over Estonia can join, but every course is based on the subject teachers also. But what is happening in Estonia when we do this kind of open courses, we don't have so many teachers to fill all the training groups. So this has been a quite struggle, this format. So in bigger countries, I think it works well. So you say that mathematics teachers, you can come to this open course when we talk about the digital tools for the mathematics, and everybody can join, and the groups fill out perfectly. Digital Accelerator program is program for the whole school teams. So here, and as I said, all the training, in all those trainings, learning outcomes are connected to specific topics and subtopics of the digital competence framework for the teachers. So Digital Accelerator is 6 months program. And the aim here is to work with the whole school program, whole school team. And this is not actually this kind of regular program. We are usually not offering the mentoring part. So here we are offering training for the head school management, training for the teachers on 2 levels. And then also there is an educational technologist mentor, and there is also digital technology development project they have to carry out through this half-year program. So it's very extensive work with all school team. That is why we call it accelerator. So there is going to be a big step up. So yeah, I put in my slides also more specific cycle of this program. What we do, we have this kind of 4 basic phases in this program. You can later on get familiar with this. And of course, these were few of the examples of big programs, but we also offer different courses on digital tools. For example, a lot of them are based on the needs that, for example, when COVID hit, then we created this learning platform courses, and we created them very fast because and the idea was that you can learn this, for example, this Moodle platform within the week. So because teachers said that I have to change all my process and I have to do it now, and I can't see my students, so what should we do? So these kind of rapid courses we created actually as a result of the COVID. And it worked very well. We had a lot of teachers come through the Moodle, Google Classroom and MS Teams courses, and after that it kind of quieted down, so the need is not there anymore. But just to give idea what kind of different versions to do. And of course there's on specific topics also the digital tools. The digital safety and digital ABC is actually this kind of courses, we call it a Ponzi scheme, that we train the trainer. So we put together a group of teachers or educational technologists who are willing to train their own school team. So they come to this course, they get access to 40 different modules. They choose 2 that they implement during the course. So they make 2 training, they train 2 modules with their teachers. So that is how we are training the 20 people, but each of those 20 people are training in their own school. So this kind of scheme is I think, working very well. So, and also a course that came out from the COVID situation was the safe school environment in the information society, that this school is especially for the school management, and the main topics are digital safety, cybersecurity and hygiene, and GDPR. So this idea is that each school create during this course their own safety, digital safety rules based on their own school needs. So just to help schools to make this step and make these rules, because a lot of the schools, has turned out during the COVID, has done those rules for them. So they have, they don't know what is allowed, what is not, and the students and the teachers, they went to the different platforms and environments, not knowing how to share the information there. So these kind of also on-demand courses we do. And of course we do webinars. So we have every week, actually, we have at least one webinar. And the idea is to give some hot topics, to give teachers some hot topics that are very important right now, so they can get the information and with a short amount of time, and then research further themselves. And this has proved really to be very popular for the teachers. And for example, when the COVID hit, we started to talk about how to do the video conferences, what kind of tools are there, and so on. And those demands got higher, so we did virtual workshops and so on. When the Ukrainian war started, we started offer how to adapt the students within the with different languages in your classroom, what kind of tools, digital tools to use, and so on. So this is very easy to do on demand. And how do we do it in Estonia is that we have, of course, right now we are using a lot of European social funds, and 10% is government funded. And right now, this is how it is. So the discussion is there that what is happening when the European social funds are ending. But right now, the next 5 years is in preparations. So, and after that, we have to discuss again how much is going to be the government funds. But we have in our training center on digital training, working on actually only 3 project managers, but we have a lot of educators. So we have this kind of network that we keep with ourselves, so that there is in-service teachers, educational technologists, school leaders who are part of our educators network, and we use them for our trainings. So it is actually very practical, and the people who are training are themselves practicing all those digital tools and ideas with their own classrooms. So that is why it is working very well. And the focus, of course, is on methodology and not the digital tools themselves, because the idea is that the methodology should change. And right now, the very hot topic is assessment, how we do assessment on digital platforms. So when we are doing the digital learning, we have to change the assessment part. We cannot do it the same way we do it in classrooms. Of course, we have this kind of open courses, custom training, and we are very flexible. So my educators, for example, in my digital accelerator program, know that if the school has to go rapidly on distance learning, and we can't do the training seminar with the teachers face-to-face, then they do the hybrid version or they do the online version, and this is actually built in with all the training courses. So they have to be able to change it very quickly into different formats if needed. Yeah, so I'm looking for the time so I don't go overboard with my time. So
we have plenty of time, Kelly,
okay,
so don't worry, you can go on.
Yeah.
We have some advance.
Okay, very good. So the digital tools for the teachers. So I just a few examples, or also what we have created. What we did, it was a quite big actually development. We created digital learning stories on a specific format, where all the different teachers described how they use different digital tools or platforms, and what kind of digital competence assessment criteria they are covering with this learning story. So to give other teachers idea what can be done. And those best practices, so we gathered together, and they're open access, so all the teachers can go to our digital competence webpage and download it, the description, and adapt it and make it her own. Also, what right now we are working on is the framework for supporting effective learning process. So we are during the COVID time, the learning skills and learning strategies came into the light. So a lot of this happened because students were learning online, and a lot of students who are not so independent could not manage. So that is why we now are not only talking about the digital competence, but we are talking about how to support those learning strategies, how to support motivation, physical and mental health, and also how to develop digital competence in every subject. So something can be done in every lesson based on those topics. And what kind of digital tools can be used to support all those important issues. Also, what is happened in Estonia, that we have a lot of different in school curricular. There is separate lessons for the computer sciences or informatics or multimedia. But what is happening sometimes is that schools teach their just Word or Excel, or depending on what their competencies are. So to put the digital competence framework for students into more perspective, we created this kind of course, e-course, which covers most of the assessment criteria for the 7th to 9th grade students, to just give teachers and educational technologists idea what can be taught, different assignments, exercises, what can be done to develop these digital competencies, and also describing different examples within different subjects. So we are right now in a process of piloting this course. So it is, the pilot ends in end of November. So and we already have a lot of feedback. But yeah, it covers throughout all the main topics in our digital competence model for students. So we are very interested on seeing how the schools respond to it. And digital glossary, so the terminology has been a big part of our discussions. So when the COVID hit, then there was a lot of discussion on what is contact seminar. Is it face-to-face, or is it also virtual meeting, or how we say what is hybrid learning and what is distance learning, and so on. So we also have had previously described all the digital technology terminology. So this glossary is actually the most used part of our learning digital competence website. So a lot of teachers and educational technologists are using it. Because the terminology is very important. There is a lot of different versions, and this gave a clear picture. One of the tools that we also have created is this kind of very simple manual for the schools, which consists 5 main topics. How to actually identify what we need in our school, what kind of tools, platforms, what kind of programs, how we manage digital learning in our school, what are the decisions we have to make throughout the schools, is there some kind of protocol for the digital learning, and for digital learning days, for example. Also, what needs to be, what are the changes in learning and teaching? How are we meeting those changes? Digital infrastructure and safety issues. What can be published, what not, how we share the information with the teachers and so on. And of course, integrating digital competence into different subjects. So this is actually the school curricular development chapter. So I think the most important one in this manual. So it gives different examples and worksheets, example worksheets, how to work with those digital competence models and with those assessment criteria, and how to implement it into every school's curriculum. Because what is happening very often is that teachers, when you ask from the school, are you developing digital competence? They are using a lot of different tools, but they haven't made an arrangement on what kind of topics each teacher will cover. So it might turn out that they are all focusing on content creation, but they are not at all covering the topic, for example, digital safety or digital interaction. So it can be so that they are actually leaving some of the parts in our module out. Yes, and as I already told, that the networking is a very big part of our work. So Estonia, because Estonia is a very small country, this is how we work, that we gather those people who are very interested in sharing their experience, and throughout these networks we develop those courses with those in-service teachers, and we look at the universities for what science has to offer. So this kind of root level cooperation is part of our work. And here are some links also. So if you want to later on see, our digital competence website is not in English, but I put there the Google Translate link, so you can get a bit of idea how what kind of information is there for the teachers and schools. So that's actually it. So I will now go to chat and see if there's any questions.
I will help you, Carly. I will go through the question we received. Some of these have been already replied by your colleague Karit. First of all, I would like to thank you once again. I mean, it's just impressive. I mean, every time Estonian speaker come, they say it, they express themselves like they just did their job, or very humbly, I mean, this is what we have done. I mean, we have to be very honest. Estonia is probably getting the standard for pedagogical reforms, and in particular for digital introduction of digital education in schools. Though almost all European countries look at Estonia as a model, and we are very grateful that you are so often participate to our events. Sometimes I feel bad because every time we come back to you for another webinar or another presentation. Thank you very much again for it. It's almost too much. So again, we will send everything for people to look back into it. There's a number of tools and softwares and processes and models that people have to go through, I mean, and to look on the internet what it is and to study about. It's really a lot. There were a few questions that have been partially answered or answered. I would like to notice that the average age of teacher is not particularly young. So we're not talking about a country who has an easy life because teachers are 25 or 30 years old. So the average age of teachers, Kari told us, is 48, 50 years. So the additional challenge that they have to deal with. There was a question about the compensation for continuing professional development for teachers. This is a hot topic. One of the biggest challenges in many countries is teachers are reluctant to spend time in continuing training because it's not paid. And in many countries, they also have a double job. So staying in the afternoon for training is complex. Kari told us that the compensation is extra credits. can I ask you exactly if what you mean by credits? I mean, is it a way to call extra funds, extra money, or credits for career development?
Kairit, are you there? Okay. I'm not sure what Kairit meant about extra credits. Okay.
She's busy.
She's
Don't worry,
on her
Kairit.
phone.
You can you can
Yeah.
reply to the question in your session.
Yeah, but actually the digital competence is something that is integrated in our professional standards in every area. So it is a must in a way. So, but the in-service teachers, of course, they if they have got their education a long ago, then they are actually they can go through the teaching process like this, that they don't actually use the digital tools, but it is already very hard to do it, and we hear about these cases in Estonia that the students or teachers, there are some teachers who are not willing to use, but they are very good teachers, and the shortage of teachers is also a very big issue in Estonia. So usually the headmaster says that we are covering those digital competence criteria we need from this subject in a different subject, because this is a very good teacher and he or she is going to be retire soon anyway, so we are not disturbing. So these kind of schools are very autonomous, so they find their way. But there are a lot of good examples already in Estonia where the schoolmaster is actually acknowledging the digital competence and they kind of reward it, in some kind of way, money-wise or some other ways, and that is how it goes. But actually, I think that is soon it is not going to be a very big issue anymore, because it's everyday life already. And the education and technologist question was also there. It is actually the key person in every school to have this profession, and throughout some programs we advocate and do the work with local governments and say them that you have to find the money to employ education and technologists, and it is not the IT guy, it is methodologically competent teacher who also likes to use digital tools, who can support other teachers. So this kind of vocation is actually very important in Estonia, and this is they have their own association, their own network. It is very cool to be in part of that network. So I can see it growing in few years quite a bit.
Thank you very much. Another question refers to all the best practices that you've mentioned. How do you evaluate a best practice? How do you choose the best practices? Do you have standard criteria? Who is the authority who actually picks the best practices and showcase to other schools?
We usually have this kind of expert group who goes through the, for example, those learning stories about using the digital tools. There were, I think, 10 times more created, but we chose some of them, 100 of them we chose from those teachers, and we had an expert group formed for this. So different teachers and educational technologists on those topics, they had to have a topic experience also, mathematics or physics or languages. So they chose those learning stories that we look through and put out on the web. So there is a kind of qualitative work we do before but it is, yeah, it's very network based, and we have, of course, this kind of framework in place what they look through. Is it suitable to publish or not?
Okay. There's a number of compliments and congratulations. And then there was a technical questions. What is the name of the standardized testing of students for measuring the digital competences? Is it similar to PISA testing or something different?
I'm not so sure it's familiar. We have in Estonia our own competence for students. We have this national competence test, and it has been carried out, I think, 3 or 4 times now, but it has not carried out throughout all Estonia. There is always a segment of school who participates, and then there is a voluntary schools who want to participate, and they get some kind of feedback. But the system is changing now because model has changed. So right now we are in a process of discussing finding the funds for the new national test for the students, and we want it to be more diagnostic test. So and beginning of the year, so the schools get the feedback and they can actually prepare the learning process based on those results. So we are changing the system, but right now I'm not sure is there funding already for the next year or not.
Okay.
Because the testing is very, very specific and very, very big work to do these kind of assignments. So the validity, reliability, so the work is very big. Yeah.
Yes, just to reply to the questions, as far as I know personally, not aware of an international testing for digital competence as PISA. So, I mean, as Kelly replied, they have their own national system, but I'm not aware that an international model exists. We have one last question, which is, however, very broad. I'm not sure we can actually go through it because we'd like to hear more about the steps which you will do to make digital learning in school. I think it would be a long answer because I mean they started many years ago, and it's a long process of several policies, experimentation, models. I think that Kelly has highlighted very well the balancing between the autonomy of the schools, at the same time the support the schools receive through networking and the role of the ministry and the agency. So it's a 2-level, and at the same time what the understanding also from the answer on the teachers, it is a compulsory model, so standards have to be achieved, but at the same time is not enforced to anyone on all teachers at the same time, because there's an understanding that things have to develop. So it's a medium long-term process where they are sure that therefore the new generation of teachers, these will not be an issue. So ideally the standards are fixed for teachers, but there's an understanding that it can be a process, and each school has the autonomy to assess if the current situation has to be addressed or if they are fine with the current situation with the teachers. So I think this combination is a very, very interesting model. Just a curiosity, Kelly, do you provide training? All these courses could be also interesting for other countries. Do you happen to provide training also outside Estonia on these topics or not yet?
I didn't understand.
All of these courses that you showed us about for
Yeah.
teacher training, for schools development, I mean, it was
Yeah.
like very big number. Do you happen to provide them already for institutions outside Estonia?
No.
Did you receive already requests, or for the moment is only internal?
Only in Estonian, yeah.
Okay, just a curiosity from my side. Thank you very much. We will have another presentation from Estonia after the break. So we'll invite you everybody to come back. It is not a lunch break. We only have 10-15 minutes. I would say we come back at 2:10 for a quick toilet break or coffee. I thank all the participants. We had regularly more than 100 participants. We are up to 115, 120. So we're very, very much happy of the high level of participation. So we can come back here at 2:10. Troppo bravo.
Questi qua sono sopra le
Hello, thank you very much. I think we can start again. Next session is fostering the adoption of whole school level digital innovation in schools. Again, our friends from Estonia, Kairit, the floor to you. Thanks again for accepting to participate and speak.
Hello, thank you very much. So it's a bit of now scary to talk after Gerli, because Gerli made fantastic introduction to our topic, but let's see how it goes now. Just a minute, and I will share my screen. So my name is Kairit Tamets, and as said, I'm from Estonia. I'm working in Tallinn University as a professor of technology enhanced learning in the School of Digital Technologies. And here today, I'm also representing the role of being coordinator of our one of the biggest projects at the moment, iHub for Schools. And iHub for Schools is quite, the focus is on this adoption of whole school level digital innovation, and Gerli and Gerli's colleagues and the things that she was introducing today are also part of the project. So that's why it was a bit of difficult for me to now understand what kind of angle I will take. But then I was thinking this way, that as a researcher, I've been interested in this adoption as a process. I'm interested in mainly this teacher level adoption, but through this almost 10 years of research, I've also understood how important is this environment where the teacher is operating. And I'm just bringing maybe some examples how we have approached it as researchers. So let's see. Maybe the motivation also for iHub for Schools is that, as we also learned from Gerli's talk, that while there are some schools who are really engaged in systematic and evidence-based improvement activities, then there are always some schools that well, we don't know exactly for what reasons, but they are not always engaged in different opportunities to become more digitally innovative, to participate in different programs, to be engaged with activities that are provided by Harno type of institutions or universities. So, and then the iHub for Schools project was exactly designed to find the answer for the question that what are then different ways and effective ways to support school leaders, school teams, and teachers to adopt innovation. We are focusing on different contexts, and one of them is, of course, Estonia. We also have Finland. We have our colleagues from Georgia here today. We have Lithuania and Estonia, Finland, Lithuania, and Georgia. So one of the questions that we have been discussing in our project is that what is digital innovative school? Because obviously this concept has gained a lot of attention recently, politically, as we already heard from the earlier presentations, practically, as we also heard from Gerli, and as from the university side, we clearly see that this is a research trend, that how to measure digital innovation, how to what kind of factors there are that are supporting it, and so on. So there is no clear definition, but what we have learned is that there is quite a well-established understanding that digital innovative school is quite often a school that has systematically integrated technological possibilities into different level of practices, from pedagogical practices in classrooms with students, or these collaborative practices and leadership practices of the members of organization. And I guess that these are the elements that we can also see in these policy level initiatives, that there is always dimension of leadership, there is always a dimension of this change management, collaboration, then something that is happening in classroom level, this change in pedagogical practices. And how we have now, what kind of approach we have taken in this iHub for School project is that we are really very much interested in two things. Evidence-informed process, that how do we know that there is a need for a change, why the schools are entering into the programs, how they understand that what has now the effect for us as a team, as an organization, but also in our classroom level. And the other aspect is that that there has to be always this promotion of social practices, that we have to take different type of stakeholders together so that we could enhance this leadership, collaborative culture, pedagogical practices. That these are the key things that we in our project try to address while we are working together with the schools. That of course we have also some cases, and I will tell you about it, that when we only focus on teachers, and sometimes you focus on also only school leaders, but there has to be this kind of understanding and awareness that actually this adoption is always, that these sides, this leadership and collaboration and this classroom practices, they somehow support each other really, really strongly. This importance of evidence-informed practices, or why we have brought this into our kind of like under attention, because we know that this inquiry-oriented practice and data-driven decisions, or evidence-informed decisions, and this all the possibilities to collect the data, it is quite a central themes in educational improvement now for quite some years. And how we have thought about it from the university side is that we have seen that there are some schools, and also I guess Kerli was mentioning, I'm sorry I couldn't follow the whole presentation, but that there are always some schools and also maybe some teachers that we can see quite often in different initiatives, some different trainings or whatever kind of things. And it's so easy to work together with them because they have this motivation, they really want to change, they know what to do, maybe not just thinking always that why we are doing it. And then there is now one example for one of the initiatives that we had. That school joined one of the initiative where they could equip the school with some sort of devices. Let's call them that was robotics kits. And they said that they need these kind of devices to support the students' motivation. And when we start working with the schools, then there is always this first question that how do you know that there is a problem? And do you think that now this equipment is the one that solves those problems? So that we really go through this process that is there really a gap in students' motivation? How do you know that there is a gap? How do you know that they're not motivated? Okay, then we are getting a little bit deeper. We know that I don't know, grades are getting lower or something like this. How do we know that now this robotics kit is really a solution for this kind of challenge? Maybe it's just some sort of, like we know that introducing some sort of innovation might work for some time, but not maybe later if it's not meaningfully designed into the processes. is there, from the leader perspective, okay, that you joined now this initiative, that and now you have loads of these different kind of kits, which are all really complicated. I don't know, maybe for you they are easy, but at least when I see these kind of things, I'm always so confused. And now I should have this a biology teacher, and then I have these kits and sensors and stuff, and I should make now this connection that how to now use it in my biology class. Is there a buy-in from the teachers to integrate this certain technology? And is there some sort of need for a training? Is there someone who is supporting the training? Do you have these kind of educational technologies that also Kerli was talking about? And then when all of these kind of things are clear, is there a knowledge in the team to understand that what is now the effect of for the different stakeholders, like school level, teacher level, student level, that what is now changed in our school after we have joined this program, we have gone through all of these kind of things, and we have these new technologies. So this is what we want to understand in our project, that if you are entering into some sort of process where you're introducing innovation in your school, do you really think all of these kind of things as well, so that this from the beginning the process is more, that there is awareness of why we are doing it. And then one of the program, because I knew that there will be today Kerli talking about how the work has done in digital acceleration program, but we have another program which is not precisely focusing on digital innovation, but to promote this evidence-informed decision-making in schools. So this is also a development program targeting leaders and teacher leaders. So there is a whole school approach in a way that the change starts from the leadership perspective, and through different activities, they just have to involve the teachers, the other teachers, other colleagues, support staff, and so on. And there will be like 9 months program when their school, based on now the development needs, is implementing some sort of innovation. It could be digital, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. And now this development needs, for this, there could be a variety of things. We have also in Estonia sort of like school satisfaction surveys. We have digital mirror, which is quite close to the logic of selfie for schools, so that the teachers can assess themselves their digital maturity in change management, pedagogical practices, infrastructure aspects, but also selfie for schools is now nicely introduced in Estonia. Anyway, this gap or this development needs, it needs to become from some sort of evidence that we really need to focus on this, because and for that we need to do this and that. This is where it all starts. So we encourage the teams to use a variety of tools for monitoring and evaluation. Then they're making this sort of a plan. Let's say one of the example was of the school who was working with the students learning to learn skills. So they understood that there is a gap with it. Then they developed different lesson designs, working sheets, some tasks, how to support students learning to learn skills. And then they collected evidence from the classroom practice. So each of the teacher who is not part of this leading team was engaged to this activity, and they have to pilot this innovation. And then after some certain periods, they collected students' results, some tests, they collected some self-reports, how students perceived their learning to learn skills. And then they brought this kind of classroom level knowledge back to the leadership level, and they discussed. Also, the evidence was collected from the teachers, their skills, because in order to teach something for the students, it's the same with the digital competence. You need to be competent yourself. So first they need to understand if there is enough knowledge also for the teachers to support students learning to learn skills, their attitudes, but also this ownership with this initiative. And these kind of things were then discussed in a leadership level reflected, and the next plans were made. So now they focused only on, let's say, 6th grade. So they decided that these learning to learn skills, they should be promoted already earlier, and next time they will focus on younger students. So this is now the example of the digital mirror that can be used for understanding, for self-assessment of these pedagogical practices in this case. And here you can see that there is a screenshot of the tests that were used to assess the students' learning to learn skills. And in this program, we really taught the school teams and the teachers to work with the data. So these are your students, this is your innovation, and now try to understand what's really like going on. And that was mentored by the university mentor, so that school teams are not left alone there. And the other aspect is this role of social practices. So when we are working with the schools, then this role of the mentor is important, but we are working also with the individual teachers. So now the focus is on another case of Estonia, but more focusing on individual teachers. So, so to adopt the innovation, so we have this assumption that teachers need to be systematically involved in co-creating the pedagogical practices around the technologies, because from my research group side, we have tried different ways. We have tried this way that we are developing some sort of digital innovative thing like digital learning resources for the secondary education. And then we just ask teachers to use it. And then when we analyzed the process, we understood that they didn't actually change their practice. They used the technologies quite traditionally, not how we wanted them to use. So that's why we have understood that actually okay, there is this innovative technology, but these pedagogical practices or these knowledge practices, they should be co-created around those. And teachers also, they need time to learn, to enact new practices. They need to understand the effect, and they need these feedback loops, but they don't know exactly how to do it. And again, this evidence-informed aspect. When I'm designing something, I'm implementing, then how do I know that it really now changes something? Maybe something is not going like immediately better, but something goes also a little bit worse in the beginning, but I need to be aware of it or notice it. So we designed a method. This is called Teacher Innovation Laboratory, which is also one example in our project. And this is exactly designed this way, that we have these teachers participating 9 months in our training program, and we have researchers. And researchers then from different angles. We have this didactical, in my case, it's a mathematics didactics expert. And then we have educational technology expert, and then we have educational psychology expert. So we want the teachers to understand how to use digital learning resources in a way that how mathematics should be taught, how the learning is happening, and how the affordances of the technologies are kind of in the symbiosis. And this is really difficult task actually for the teachers. So they are coming every month to the university, and we are co-designing them these new practices. We are giving them basically like design principles, that you should think about this and that. Have you thought about that you should start maybe the lesson not with introducing immediately new topic, but to activate the prior knowledge. So what kind of possibilities there are for that? Okay, so you can design it this way. So we are co-designing these new practices, and they are going back to school and pilot this scenario and these tasks in their own classroom. And we also ask them to collect some data. We ask them to monitor these students' results in learning environment, but we also ask them to collect self-reports from the students about their, like for once it was about their engagement. Now then there is some sort of research interest behind it. But we want them to also reflect these, okay, this is what I wanted to do. This is what turned out. And this is what the students said. What does it mean now? did it work or not? So maybe just to have a concrete example, they understood at some moment that in order for students to be cognitively engaged in the mathematics lesson, it's not enough if they're just individually solving the tasks, but they also need to verbalize what they're thinking. And this is only something that you can specifically design into your lesson. And they understood from the students' self-reports that students did not have this opportunity to wrap up the new topic with their own words or something like this. So this is something that they said, I will now try to promote next time a bit better. So we are doing it basically like six times, this kind of iteration, and they are producing these materials and they reflect it so we could develop their data literacy. And then we are collectively then reflecting this. We are studying the teachers, obviously, so the teachers are studying their students, and then we are reflecting this experience. And in the end, they are presenting their final ideal lesson designs where they are illustrating all the things that they have learned. So this is just now example of things that they are doing. So these are some sort of digital learning materials. This is the case of teacher Desmos, quite well known in mathematics domain. Also some sort of task here. Then this is the learning design. Basically, this is just a prototype of things that we want to further develop, but this is a template basically in Excel. So that what are the things that you should now think about, and from this cognitive engagement perspective or this mathematical thinking processes, that to kind of like a scaffold teacher design process. And then this is just a little prototype, students self-reports about engagement. I told the teacher when I'm interested in something, I was paying attention and so on. So not really informative at the moment, but just that was the goal of promoting teacher data literacy and to gather insights to develop our products in our research group. So what was the result? So you can already understand that this is really demanding also from the university side to put 4 people to work together with 25 teachers for basically 1 year. So that for us, the motivation is clearly research. But as a result, we can say that the teachers' kind of understanding of these constructive teaching methods and how to foster student engagement was improved. And also, when we analyzed now these learning designs and tasks, we also noticed that there was improved understanding how to design these digital learning resources to promote mathematical thinking. They started with the tasks that were mainly about drilling, just this, the same design of tasks. And through this process, then this understanding how the tasks could be more complex, focusing on higher order thinking skills related to real life and so on. That kind of change could have been monitored. They also improved this understanding how to collect classroom data. So when they entered to the program, then they said, oh, come on, I know already beginning of the training who will have C or B and so on. I know that some of them are not like able to learn mathematics because I was also teaching his father, and his father wasn't also really capable in mathematics. But actually, when you're monitoring this individual student and you see that there might be just some simple thing that he has missed, and you get over it, and the situation is maybe getting much better. And also they improved skills to create digital learning resources in our Estonian national repository, e-school bag, or e-koolikott as we are calling it, and also in teacher Desmos. So that through this kind of approach, we obviously managed to a little bit improve this teacher technological and pedagogical and content knowledge. So I have no idea how long I've been talking, but anyway, this is the last slide, and maybe some takeaway messages from our perspective, from the university side. that introducing educational innovations, including digital aspects of it, it's a really long process. So we have never been successful only just to introducing the new tool that we have, I don't know, developed or some other way it has been introduced. It's just, there are so many different aspects that we need to take into account. And we also heard from Gerli how they are working with the schools. And this pedagogy and technology, they go hand in hand, but also this practice and research, they also go hand in hand, and development and evaluation. So these are actually all these aspects why we think in Estonia how important it is that these different stakeholders work together. And then maybe what we also have faced here is that technology seems to be answer for different questions, like when students have lack of motivation or whatever, but maybe we don't always focus this, what was the question actually. So that's probably the reason why we have designed our interventions this way, that we are really focusing on this change and these pedagogical aspects of it. So through this leadership and vision of, and this understanding why we are doing the things what we are doing, through this collaboration and cooperation and training, which is embedded into teacher practice, and this understanding that I'm introducing technology, that as a result, at the end of the day, the learning for the students should be more student-centered and meaningful for them, then I guess that we are going towards the sustainable and evidence-informed adoption of digital innovation. I guess that was all. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you very much. That was very interesting. A few points from my side. Yes, we all rush it a bit because we find that introduction of digital teaching and learning in schools became sort of so much pressing after pandemic that there's been oversupply of tools, methodologies, political pressure. You need to do it. Definitely. Your starting point was very, very interesting. I mean, do we have the time and the passions to look at what are the questions? So what are the demands, and why are we doing it at the level of the school? I couldn't agree more. We have this context where we feel the pressure, and sometimes we forget that, I mean, schools need time. ETF works with partner countries outside Europe where you always have a plethora of small or bigger international projects or national projects which go to schools and inevitably have to come with the same approach for everybody. So you have like future classroom or selfie for everybody or another initiative. So inevitably there's a lot of supply, and sometimes the risk is that teachers or schools where people are a bit more skeptical, if you provide something they don't feel useful immediately, they don't really answer to their needs, their skepticism is sort of enforced. So as I told you, that was not necessary, and then you come and I cannot use it. So it's a very good point. Of course, from university, I mean, the approach is much more scientific, and when you really go and spending time with students and teacher in depth, then there's so much more understanding of the complexity of all this process. It's very important. I very much appreciate that we can balance what we have discussed and present before with a more critical approach to inevitably it takes time. Inevitably, you need to make an extra effort to bring in the real added value of digital education, because otherwise, if you just use it the same way, I mean, if you do distance learning, just talking to the students, yes, it's digital, but it's exactly as before. So to what extent are you using the new tools with a real potentiality? So I think all these points are very, very important. I think it's good to balance the pressure of actually having things happen in schools with a more critical approach. inevitably you need schools who are mature enough to start a real self-reflection, and teacher need to try, understand from their own experiences, adapt. So it requires a lot from the school, but that's in the long term, that's the only way you can really apply change. So I really appreciated your presentation. There are very many interesting elements. I pick up another minor element, which I think is very important, is that at a certain point it's very useful if you put teachers of the same subject together and you really work on specific application of digital tools for their subject, because every subject is different. And mathematics is a very good example of a subject which is radically different from history, literature, or all the other subjects where you have to study the content instead of actually practicing with numbers. So that's another important element that usually brings in interesting results. It's also easier to engage teachers when you move from this theoretical discussion on use of digital tools to, okay, let's pick up softwares, how you use them, for which part of your program, etc., etc. If there are any questions, I saw before there was a hand raised from one of the participants. I forgot. It's not raised anymore. So if it was by mistake, otherwise the person can take the floor. You can also take the floor by raising your hand. Usually, when we have around 100 participants, it's a bit easier if you write the question in the chat. But still, you can take the floor if you prefer. So feel free to raise your hand through the Zoom functionality if you have any specific question. Otherwise, again, thanks from a number of participants. And we pass through another example case history from Georgia this time. Miss Tatya Nakashidze. Again, so apologies for mispronouncing if it was the case. Thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you for inviting me, and I'm honored to be here today with you. And I would say that I'm more than scared now after such brilliant presentations, but I will still start my presentation. Yes, I will start with, let me share my screen. So, okay. Yes. I will start my presentation with the words that digitalization is transforming society, having a strong impact on all sectors of our everyday lives. Digital transformation is driven and enabled by new technologies and services that change the ways in which we work, learn, and live. This is also true for our educational sector, impacting policy and action plans, learning spaces, leader and teacher competency, curriculum and content, pedagogy and learning activities, parent involvement, thus impacting the everyday to school life of students. Transforming learning systems and sustaining innovative learning at scale requires an understanding of the complexity of contemporary learning systems with many settings, players, and connections. The present-day educational system faces lots of challenges, new challenges. Schools are more equipped with new technologies, which should improve the pedagogy practices. Students should be prepared for the future development and develop their 21st century skills. As part of the formal education, and teachers and students, digital competencies need to be shaped, as lack of such skills may increase the digital divide between different groups and harm some students' ability to cope in knowledge-intensive and technology-enhanced environment. In schools, investments in the technologies have increased rapidly to promote technology-based school innovations, but it is not clear if the change at the system level is happening. Policy-level decisions have been made, and investments in the ICT and professional development programs have been drawn up, but it does not seem to be enough. The concept of digitally innovative schools has gained a lot of attention recently. Many studies have pointed out that technology in schools does not necessarily lead to change in the lesson learning outcomes. Obviously, schools need methodological assistance based on research that can propose mechanisms to satisfy strong need for the emphasis of mentoring and peer learning processes. Therefore, there is a strong need for the approach which emphasizes the mentoring and peer learning to foster the school level change for more scalable and evidence-informed implementations of digital innovations by teachers. In general, we can mention that the steps taken by Ministry of Education of Georgia, all the interviewed teachers within the project mentioned that support from the state and the school management, which was especially strong during pandemic period, when the learners' activities were going online. During this period, various learning platforms were developed. This was a resource that helped teachers to guide students in their learning processes. Several examples of successful projects implemented in Georgia can be mentioned, such as the general education reform that was launched by the government. A special attention is paid to equipping schools with computers. Namely, in 2021, 400 schools were provided with computers equipment. In the curriculum, the course of computer technologies have become mandatory, and the creation of an online resource banks were supported. At this stage, I will briefly characterize innovative digital schools in Georgia. When talking about innovative schools, the question naturally arises: which part of the educational system is responsible for implementation of digital innovations in the schools? The answer is univocal. The support from the government in the process of building innovative schools is essential. However, no reform can be successful without active involvement of the school community, teachers, parents, students, especially the principals. The principal is a main connecting link between state, society, and school. In Georgia, the school principal is an educational leader whose main goal is to effectively manage teaching and learning process for students' academic and personal development, develop and maintain a positive school culture, create safe and collaborative school environment, take care of the strategic development of school and professional advancement of the team, ensure equal access to quality education. Therefore, it is clear that the competence, vision, and civic awareness on principle are of great importance in the process of development of the school from an innovative point of view. To highlight the understanding of digital innovative schools in Georgia, I would cite principals' words, and I will not take your time, and I will cite only one of them. Using digital tools and resources critically, determining how much they use digital technologies in the educational process serves to enhance the students' educational experience and to implement innovative practices as part of students' daily learning experience rather than a list of showcase lessons. The aspect of accurately defining a school-level digital strategy, planning and implementing appropriate activities is a critically important element. The problem is that teachers' digital competencies are not systematically assessed in Georgia, and as the digital competencies of teachers are unequal. Problem with digital competencies exist in transition to distance learning has made it clear. The pandemic significantly contributed to the introduction of technology on a teacher level. It has also shown the teachers themselves that they need to develop digital competencies. More than 400 schools are implementing plans for the use of computer equipment and for the creation of the shared workplaces for teachers. Such space will enable teachers to use computers, learn about computers, and also it helps teachers share knowledge between teachers. My presentation titled Collaboration between the schools in developing digital practices is based on the research conducted within the framework of Horizon 2020. I have 4 schools project and description of the Georgian pilot case in 2 schools. Within the project, Georgian partners, particularly Batumi Shotarostaveli State University staff, started piloting process in schools of Ajara region. In the Georgian educational cases of IHUB for schools project, special attention is paid to the introduction and development of digital technologies. And in the strategy of Ministry of Education and Science of Georgia, the government has focused on technological advancements and innovations in schools, and Georgian case reflects this focus. In Georgia, Batumi, 2 schools were selected for the participation in I-Hub4School project, Batumi Public School #1 and Dologani Public School. The schools were selected according to the following criteria: experience, size, geographical location, infrastructure, teachers' achievements, and index of participation in various projects and programs. Both schools started in winter 2022 as a pilot schools of the I-Hub4Schools project. The schools are located in different parts of Ajara region. Public school #1 is located in Batumi, capital city of region, and the second school is located in the mountainous region of Ajara. The aim of this case is to enhance teachers' digital competence and to support collaboration between 2 schools, teachers with different abilities and achievements, teachers of different subjects and different levels, in sharing the experience and supporting each other in the application of digital technologies in the teaching process. The whole process was mentored by mentors from Batumi Shotastaveli State University. Piloting process was mainly based on the principle developed in the conceptual model, which was developed within the I-Hub4School project by partner universities. Measuring teachers' digital competence and technological method and collegial method was used in supporting teachers to enhance their digital skills. The first step of the pilot was school selection. The second step was interviews with school administration and teachers to define their needs. Both the interviews with principals and research carried out have shown that teachers are more or less proficient in various technologies, but the main problem remains the frequency and practice of their effective use in the educational process. It should also be noted that along with the insufficient frequency and quality of using digital technologies in the educational process, teachers find it difficult to adopt the same technology to different subjects, topics, and problems. Therefore, the main goal of the pilot was to develop practical and transferable skills in teachers. On the next step, we introduced the teachers to the self-assessment tool, Selfie for Teachers, and explained the purpose of the self-assessment. Since most teachers believe whenever they do kind of assessment or self-assessment, it is in fact the ministry assessment, but not the self-assessment. Therefore, they are afraid to say that they don't know something, or they are afraid to talk about their problems and weaknesses. Next step was carrying out the selfing. So mentors assisted teachers to take self-assessment tests, and we conducted this assessment in 3 ways. The first, teachers filled out the questionnaire independently. In this case, the teachers needed computers and the internet and access to the questionnaire. In second case, teachers are assisted by mentors when filling out the questionnaires in face-to-face meetings format. In this case, an audience equipped with computers, internet, and translation of the questionnaire was needed. And the third case was teachers are helped by mentors while filling out the questionnaire, but in online format. In this case, they needed computers, the internet, and questionnaire also was translated in Georgian. The interview results and the self-assessment results were selected and analyzed. The researchers of BSO, by researchers of BSO, then based on the results and the teachers' needs were evaluated, and trainings and workshops were planned and held. Trainings were held in 4 phases. First, by national expert in the field, Alexandria Satiani. Second, 2 training sessions by the local professional trainers. Third, by the lead teacher from 1 pilot school who shared her experience of using digital tool in teaching process with another teacher of another school. And the fourth, by the lead teacher of a 2nd pilot school who also shared her experience with a 1st pilot school. The most important in this process was the fact that teachers were asked to share the experience gained with the rest of the teachers from their schools. And this process was observed and monitored by mentors from our group. The aim of the training conducted by lead teachers from each pilot school was to find and encourage sharing of a good practice within and between schools. As there are teachers with good and interesting approaches, we should encourage them to share their experience. So we need to have some bottom-up process in which we can find good practice, we can find good teachers, and then share their experience between schools and between teachers. The piloting process was completely based on the principle of learning by doing. Both demonstration and problem-based learning were distinguished. Along with piloting, mutual coaching was important, which allows teachers to support each other, share problems with each other, and find solutions together. The midterm results of the pilot showed that this process significantly increased transferable skills of the teachers. This is confirmed directly by the tasks defined for teachers using the pilot and training process, which required the use of transferable skills. We think that this is already an advanced process for this stage. However, in the long term, our goal and expectations are completely aimed at teachers to facilitate the era of digital technologies without obstacles and to complete the teaching process as much as possible with modern student-oriented approaches. The final step of the pilot, which is ongoing at the moment, includes the self-assessment of teachers' digital competencies using the same self-assessment tool, Selfie for Teachers, and a short interview that will be analyzed once again, and we will have the full picture of what worked and what did not, whether teachers really enhanced their digital competence or not, and what has to be changed and improved. After the completing above mentioned steps, we are going to involve more schools, and mentors are going to monitor how teachers will apply gained knowledge in their teaching practices. And what is more, peer tutoring model will be developed within the iHub School project. And at the end of my presentation, I would like to share a picture of our university and mention researchers who worked hard on the pilot process. This is PSEU staff, professors Madonna Micheladze, Tamer Siradze, associate professors Nana Makaradze, Michael Donadze, Gulat Vartenadze, ministry representative Nino Nakashidze, and me, Tatya Nakashidze. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your contribution. Apologies, I had a small technical problem with the meeting which is going in parallel, but I sorted out, I hope. We have finished the presentations today. I'll take the opportunity, first of all, to open for questions for the last presentation, but if you have any additional intervention, anything that you heard today, or anything you want to say, or an experience that you want to talk about, please feel free to take the floor. We have sufficient time. All the speakers were very on time, and we are, I would say, in advance. So still, the floor is open for any comment and questions you can put in the chat or raise your hand. In the meantime, let me thank all the speakers for the intervention. I think the sessions today were very high level. I thank all of you. I think we try to cover theoretical approaches with examples from the country. It's always difficult to choose to how much you go in details on the different topics, all these frameworks and examples. We could have spent 2 days on each of them. We try to give you an overview. However, I think the topic is very, very important. We have a high participation to this event, more than the others. So we will try to replicate working on teachers' competences in a different format, maybe more based on specific examples and from specific schools in the future. So definitely this is going to be something that we will pick it up. Now, I have a very quick presentation about the development projects. I kindly ask the organizer to put it on. It's super quick. We just wanted to show that we are working actually with the development projects. They are not a myth. We received a number of proposals. It was a bottom-up call that we organized. We wanted to work on with some schools on what were areas of their interest. So we are talking about small initiative, which we support at developing or experimenting processes and practices to expand digital education and learning inside the Center of Excellence or school. We provide a capacity building program touching several subtopics. for these development projects, and we provide customized support in relation to their specific objective. We're going to present 4 super quick. The first one is from Moldova, the Center of Excellence in Energy and Construction. We like this very much. The focus is providing students with the skills to create quality digital content. So the idea is that the students themselves participate and are engaged with the teacher to provide, develop digital content which can be used for the future by the same teachers or even other schools. Just interesting for this project is that there are other VET schools involved. So the Center of Excellence is basically coordinating a wider group of schools. It's very innovative, and we have decided that we will follow up the end of the development project with additional resources to try to expand these experience to a wider network of schools and Center of Excellence. The second one is from Africa. So we're talking about 2 different countries. There are schools which are part of the Humana network. These projects is the one which is covering more areas, is the one which is more overarching. So they are talking about digital readiness assessment, development of digital strategy action plan, teacher training, and development of content. So this one is the most ambitious. We have a strong dialogue with them. They will clearly benefit from the different capacity building actions which touch all of these elements. The third one is from Georgia. Here is much more specific. It tried to address the students' lack of engagement in online work with the development of digitization of audio and video materials. So we will focus specifically on this type of materials. We will provide teacher training and showcase examples from Europe, models for developing audio and video materials. The last one was also very interesting. It was the attempt to address vulnerable groups and adult digital competencies and skills gap. Okay, so the idea of the center was to cooperate with the National Employment Agency and to address the people that they have specific digital gaps, especially in rural areas. We found this project important, and we have decided to use our resources to scale this project to a more wider context. So we will involve both Azerbaijan and Moldova. We will use additional resources, and we will create a strong partnership with the National Employment Agency. So it has been transformed from a pilot project in the context of DIGI ENE to a bigger initiative. Again, very interesting, focus on adults, something a bit different from the normal initial education focus. Last slide. So how are we going to report to all the participants to DIGI ENE? First of all, we will have a final publication with the results of the development project, which will be distributed to everyone and which will be posted on our website. We will ask development projects to provide specific presentation on the most innovative and interesting results of the projects in the future webinars. So there will not be fixed moments. It will depend on them when they feel ready, when they have something to tell. They feel confident that this is going to be really impactful for all the other DIGI ENE members, then we will create opportunity for them to disseminate. And then last but not least, for those who found this project interesting, there will be opportunities for cooperation and networking with other members of the ENE network. So there's always the possibility to get in contact, to establish cooperation, and potentially to also access to funds for the countries who can through Erasmus funds. This was last presentation. I don't have a lot of conclusions. I think the presentation were very much clear. The topic is the most important. I mean, there's no digital innovation in schools without the teachers. They are the heart of the schoolwork, the connection between the school and the students. And we have also to be aware that it's always something additional for them. So in all our initiative, we try to take the time to understand to what extent they can actually engage in new approaches in continuing training. That's why I think the questions on how to motivate teachers to participate to continue training is so much important. And I think we have different models in different countries. Today we have the answer from Estonia, but I think in a future webinar we'll try to focus on this particularly because it's a lot of effort from teachers to adapt to these new approaches. So we need to allocate time and resources for them to really do it properly. I don't have many other points. I would like to, first of all, thank you very much our contractor STEPS, which did 99% of the work in the definition of the agenda, developing the content, identifying the speakers. So thank you very much. I'll give you the floor in a second. Thank you all the participants again, all the people who registered. So even those who could not stay till the last moment, we will share the recording and all the presentations. And also, of course, thanking Tree for the organization of this conference and Loretta for all the work in the management of the project. Roberto, if you want to have a few final words.
Thank you very much, Filippo. It was a pleasure, and we are so happy that we were able to, well, put together different experiences from different countries, from different projects, and I'm also happy to see that we have still more than 70 participants, so it means that they were not all bored or wanted to close the meeting. So it's good to see that we still have an active attendance. And well, just a few words about the development project, because of course you mentioned that the description, very short, the description and the topics of each project. And I just would like to remind for those who are here and who are part of the mentioned development projects that we are organizing some dedicated workshops for them, very much focused workshops on different topics. One is about innovative pedagogical approaches, and another one is about the creation of innovative learning scenarios using digital repositories. And there will be another one about visible design and learning design of learning pathways with digital technologies for teachers and for educators. We will also have another workshop about critical digital literacy with some examples. So these workshops are mainly will be mainly created in order to help the approved development projects to implement their activity, so to make their life easy. Of course, it's not a mandatory one, but we will have some limited access for them in order to facilitate, let's say, the implementation, the development of their ideas. The ideas are quite different one from the other, but we think that with this topic we would like to cover the most of these themes. And this workshop will be, we would like to call them workshop because they will be quite practical, so with some group working, with some assignments and even homework to do for them, because we would like to create a kind of learning by doing, presenting examples and giving some new tools to use. But we will be more detailed in the future, and we will send email to the involved partners to let them know exactly dates and topics for each workshop. This was my conclusion, my addition to development projects, and I would like to thank you again for the participation, and a big thank to all the speakers who gave very interesting contributions about the teacher's digital competency.
Okay, thank you very much. And you will receive information about our future webinars on the context of DIGI ENE. And I really hope that you will also participate in the future ones. And thank you very much again for your participation.
And thank again for the interpreters who had hard work. And thank you, Filippo, for moderating all the session.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.